Welcome to Fun Fold Cards. Today we are going to make a 6x6 card with hexagons on the front. But there's a little trick to that a bit later on. We're going to use our gel plate with distress oxides and stencils today. So you'll need those things, your brayer, you'll need some paper, either printer paper or scrap paper, whatever you want to use to pull your prints, and some cardstock to make for our card base. So to get started, we will cut our card base so it's ready to go. Pop these off to the side. Okay, so with your paper trimmers, cutting your cardstock to 6 inches by 12 inches. Okay, and then with what's left we will need to cut 9 squares that are 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and then 4 of those squares we're going to cut in half. It's just lining them up on the diagonal onto your cut line. And then one of them we are going to cut into 4. So cut on the diagonal first, and then lining up triangle point, cutting in half again. Okay, so I'm going to put all of those to the side, and we're going to create some backgrounds so that we can cut them up to use on our card. Now with this one we are going to add the distress oxides direct to the plate and then brayer them on to blend together. Just make sure that you have a scrap bit of paper off to the side to roll off your brayer to clean that off, and if you find that it's not cleaning off thoroughly enough, you can always have a damp cloth near you to clean your plate and clean your brayer between your colours. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our colours just direct to the plate. You can tap it on, drag it on, however you want to get that ink onto your plate. Now you can do one colour, you can do a full colour, you can do half the plate. You don't have to do the full plate because we are going to be just using small sections of them. So with your brayer, just smoothing that on, getting that ink across, some of that pink off, so we blend those across. Okay, and we can build up these layers with stencils now, or we can just pull this print, and I'll show you what that looks like. So use your brayer to smooth down, or your hand, whatever your preference is fine. There we go. We have a beautiful print. Okay, we still have some ink left on the mat, and you can get rid of it so it doesn't mix in, or you can leave it there if you're happy. As I said, it's completely up to you. Just have fun with it. See what happens. Alright, so we add a stencil over the top. We'll do just half. We might use a bit of salty ocean. So we use pink raspberry and salvage patina. So with this one, instead of going direct to the pad, just making sure that your brayer is nice and clean, picking up the ink with your brayer and then just running that over your stencil. Okay, can flip that over, and then we can put our sheet back over the top. And there we go. So not super clearly defined, but that's okay. We can keep working on it and seeing what we pull up with. If it's not quite what you were hoping for, you can just keep layering it, keep adding texture, or if you are happy with your layout, leave it to the side and then keep building more. So have fun making lots of different layouts with your Distress Oxides and your stencils. To clean these off, just spritz with a bit of water, grab some paper towel, and you can clean that up and then move on to your next print. Cleaning off the stencil. Oops. Right, and moving on to the next one. So have fun making lots of backgrounds, make as many as you want because you might like to have a bit of a stash ready. You might like to make multiples of this card. Just see how you go, have some fun, and we will see you once we've created. when you are happy with your prints, you can stop there and make sure that they're dry, and then we can cut them and get them ready to add onto our card. So we'll put our jelly plate to the side, and then we're going to cut these up. Now, out of just these three, you will get lots and lots of the elements that we need for the front of the card. So you'll have lots of leftovers to create new cards, other cards, lots of recreations of the card that we're about to make. Completely up to you. So we need to cut 9 squares, and we're going to cut them at 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. So like I said, just a small amount. You might want to cut a few extra ones, and then you can audition them and work out which ones work best for your design. So 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. Okay, so I've cut out lots more than what I need, but it's a great way of being able to pick and choose and audition pieces as you make your card. So we'll grab our card base, pop our little triangles to the side, and with your scoreboard, score at 6 inches. You can just fold it in half if you would prefer. Sometimes it's with this thicker cardstock from House of Paper. It's just easier to use the scoreboard to place that score in there. Folding in half, finishing that score line. Okay, so maybe easier so you've got a flatter surface to work with, just to work with it open. Working on your card front, we are going to layer 9 of these pieces out. So what you'll find is that you'll need to have just a small gap in between each of the squares, and that will go to the final effect that we want to create. So just try to make them even in the card, so you've got an even border all the way around. And then just auditioning those pieces, working out where the placement is. Where you want it to be. Keeping that border nice and even in those spaces. So once you're happy with the placement on the front there, go ahead and glue those on. I find it easier working with glue in the glue bottle, but it's up to you with what you have at home and what you have available to, and of course personal preference. Just gluing these pieces into place. Keeping that even spacing. So each time you make this card or anything like it, it's always going to look completely different because each print that you make creates something different every time. It's a fun way of being able to use up your jelly prints. And then you could even use one of your jelly prints to create an envelope to match. This card is going to fit inside a standard 6x6 envelope. You could always use an envelope maker or a scoreboard to create your own. Okay, so once you have all of your squares glued down, this is where our little pieces come into play that we cut out earlier. So the full squares are going to go into the middle in a diamond shape, lining up with those gaps that are in between each of the squares. The ones cut in half are going to go on the edges, and the ones we cut into 4 going into each of the corners. So laying all of those out and then gluing them into place. Then we will add our sentiment to finish the card. once you have glued on all of your cut up bits, your triangles and your diamonds, to create the tile pattern on the front of your card. It's the cheats way of creating hexagons, but really effective. Very pretty. Okay, so while the glue dries, we will make our sentiment. So with what we have left of our our 3/4 of an inch cardstock that we cut all of our diamonds out of, our little squares, we are going to cut a sentiment strip that is 3 inches. Ooh. Okay. And using the Happy Birthday stamp from Couture Creations birthday sentiment set, we're going to emboss a happy birthday onto, we might just pull that out so we can hold it in place. Okay, with some embossing ink, stamping that on. I'll use some white embossing powder to emboss that image. Should have used my embossing buddy before putting that on. So I've got a little bit of excess embossing powder on there. So it's a good tip to remember. Use your embossing buddy before your anti-static tool so you don't get those extra bits of embossing powder that you don't want. Okay, it's our heat tool. I'm going to heat that up for a little bit first. And then when it's nice and hot, emboss our happy birthday sentiment. There we go. Then we'll grab some scissors and we'll ducktail the ends. This is completely optional. You may not want to do this. You might even have a banner die that you'd like to cut out before or after stamping. There we go. Then we're going to pop that in the middle, just on some foam tape. And then just to finish that one off, grab a white gel pen and a ruler. I'm going around the outside just to help it stand out that little bit more. So this is completely optional, you don't have to do this, you can even use a black if you prefer. We can even add a white piece of cardstock underneath prior to adding your squares on. So just making that cardstock a little bit larger than the squares that you're going to put on. It's up to you and how you'd like to finish your card. There we go. And there is our hexagon 6x6 birthday card with our jelly prints that we made today. So being a dark card, if you don't want to write with a white gel pen, you could add a white piece of cardstock in the middle there. It's up to you. Have fun, and we hope you have enjoyed this class, and we look forward to seeing your gel plate creations.